I decided to change the name of my page to being Baseemah. Baseemah is my first name. It was the name I was given at birth by my father. My understanding is that the story goes that when I was born, I smiled, or there was some kind of smiling involved. That's why they named me Baseemah. If you don't know, Baseemah is Arabic and it means smiling one, or one who smiles. I am constantly told that I have a beautiful smile. Throughout the course of my life and my career, different things have happened where I've changed my name. So growing up, my parents did not allow us to have nicknames. So if you met me, if you knew me in high school and grade school, if you knew me in my small town where I grew up, if you're my auntie, my uncle, my cousins, then you called me Baseemah. If you couldn't pronounce it, then you had to learn how to pronounce it, because there was no nicknames in my household growing up. In college, people called me Baseemah because I was still kind of like in that same mindset, like, no, you're gonna learn my name. Now, meanwhile, all through life, people have been butchering my name, but I just kind of corrected them or spelled it phonetically for them, because it's pretty much spelled the way that it's pronounced, Baseemah. Around that time, like Beanie Man and them were out, and there was a lot of Simma. Who got the keys to my bimmer? So like people would call me that. And at that point it annoyed me. Now I'm kind of like, for once in my life, it probably made me pretty cool. Anyway, fast forward to trying to get a job. I've had multiple last names. I had my birth last name. I was married once, had a different last name. And then now I have a third last name. So I've had 3 last names. I married my current husband and was just looking for a job, was kind of struggling to get a job. And so decided to shorten my name to B. That's why I started going by B, because it was just easier to get a job. Like if people saw that on a resume, then they wouldn't think twice, or they just wouldn't know what to think, which is exactly kind of what I was going for, is just to take off the biases on the front end. And then like, if I got the interview, then hopefully it was, the conversation would go well enough to where I could land the job. So that's where B came from. I literally started going by B in like 2016, 2017, I think, and have been known as B in the job world since then. Now it's like, if people call me B, then it's usually because I have met them along my professional journey. But from a private standpoint, from a family standpoint, I'm Baseemah. Just a little story is my sister worked with me at the last organization that I worked with. So it was a transition for her, because she calls me Baseemah and she would, kind of have to call me B, or she didn't have to call me B, but she called me B because that's what everybody else knew me as. So if she said Baseemah, they may not know who that is. So my decision to change my name on this channel to being Baseemah is because I've been watching a documentary called Pee-wee Herman as Himself. And in the documentary, first of all, I grew up watching Pee-wee Herman. I don't care what you got to say. Like Pee-wee's Big Adventure was a whole vibe. Basically, Paul Reubens, who is the man, the human behind Pee-wee Herman, went through this whole like process. And as a part of trying to make his role as Pee-wee successful, he decided to pretty much completely eliminate all other characters, including Paul Reubens, which is the real person. The series goes into like some of the ups and downs that he experienced in his individual life and things like that. But the thing that stuck out to me the most was his decision to eliminate. He wanted to make Pee-wee real. And so the byproduct of making Pee-wee real meant that Paul Reubens basically no longer could exist. So as I think about this channel and this journey and just where I am in my life, I previously called this channel Professor Nance Unplugged. And I was like, that's like a double negative. Like, I'm Baseemah Nance. I play Professor Nance online or in the classroom. That's where that name came from. So Professor Nance is the name that I asked students to call me when I was a teacher. I am B or Baseemah Nance playing Professor Nance, and then I'm calling that Unplugged, which in my opinion points right back to Baseemah. It just never sat well with me. I decided to do Professor Nance Unplugged originally because I feel like online, that's kind of how I usually try to show up. But I don't know. I wasn't thinking about it because basically this channel is exactly just me being Baseemah, me not being Professor Nance, me not being B Nance, me not being any of the other personas and the hats that I wear in my everyday life as like a professional and out here in the world. I've been thinking about it for a while. I had a nice chat with my friend ChatGPT. We decided that being Baseemah just felt more relevant and more authentic to what I'm trying to do. That's where the name change came from. I just wonder, does anybody else experience that where you feel like your different roles, your different not personalities, not your different personalities, but your different, all the different things that you are. Like, I'm a Black Muslim woman, CPA, educator, and there's so many hats that I wear. Do you feel like they're often competing with one another? And do you feel like you have to choose, or how do you like mesh them all together? I think for me, the way that I would answer that is, I feel like my answer is changing, honestly. I feel like previously I've kind of just like been what I needed to be in that moment. So if I'm in a work environment, then I just show up as CPA B or CFO B. If I'm like with my family, then I am Baseemah, Black Muslim woman Baseemah. And it just depends on the scenario and where I am. But I think what I'm trying to do, and this is part of that process, is just be all of the people that I am. When I say multiple personalities, I keep thinking like, you know, mental illness, but I think maybe at the root of it, that's kind of what it causes though. Like, I could see how like you having to show up in different spaces as different people could like lend itself to you feeling like you have multiple personalities, or feeling like you are never truly 100% authentic to who you are. And that's taxing. That is so heavy to wear and to have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. And so that's what I'm trying not to do. I'm trying to get out of that completely, because I've spent my time putting on different hats and code switching and all the things that we talk about. But, you know, it is exhausting. And I feel like if you are in that space where you're having to do that, then you need to make sure that you have some type of outlet where you feel like you can be like 95% of who you are. I feel like I can be that with my family, but you know, we spend so much of our time at work and around other people who are not our family. So just something to keep in mind as you're thinking about your life and where you want to be. I'm 41. I'm trying to live the next 41, inshallah, next 41 years differently than I've lived the past 41 years. And so that's one of the things that I don't want to take with me. I don't want to have to be a small smidgen portion of who I am in different spaces. And so I am actively working on ways to make sure that I can show up as Baseemah in all of the spaces. And it starts here. It starts right now. It starts with this video. Thank you for being here and for joining me on this journey. If you like what you see and want to stick around, then make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you like this video and comment below. I would love to hear like what's been your experiences with your name, with just different things in your personality and who you are and how you show up. Until next time, bye.